Like most people familiar with the game, I have a love-hate relationship with Grand Theft Auto Online. On the one hand, it's one of the single most impressive feats of gaming history, and on the other, it's one of the most frustratingly pathetic wastes of potential I have ever experienced. It is a space in which you can't help but feel totally awestruck, both by the quality and by the squandered opportunity. Los Santos is a place that can completely absorb you, only to abruptly and unnecessarily spit you back into reality in ways that seem almost intentional. It's as if Rockstar takes the concept of leaving the player wanting more a little too literally. GTA Online is the gaming version of an incredibly gifted protege who never learned the need to apply themselves, ultimately limiting what could have been breathtaking potential. A perfect example of what I'm talking about is the networking situation behind GTA Online. The game predominantly uses peer-to-peer networking, which I'm sure saves an incredible amount of money versus running the game on dedicated servers. However, this sacrifices the security and the experience of the player. I'm no expert on the business or the technical aspect of this decision, though I still feel confident in saying that it's a huge mistake. I will never understand how a company that clearly recognizes the value of gameplay experience to the extent that Rockstar does could conclude that a prohibitive technology such as this is more profitable than creating the best gameplay environment possible. How is it that the creators of a game that has kept players interested for over a decade have not learned one of the most glaring lessons demonstrated by a game like Fortnite? Now that's a game that spares absolutely no expense in creating a seamless gameplay loop, and by no coincidence has ended up with one of history's most profitable franchises. Seamlessness is the one quality that could make GTA Online the best game I've ever played, yet paradoxically, the developers seem to specifically exclude. Playing GTA Online is a consistently confounding experience. You as a player are repeatedly presented with design decisions which specifically reduce playability. Contact missions are a fantastic example of this. These missions transition the player from the living, breathing, populated state of San Andreas to what feels like a much colder, emptier state of play. These missions are the perfect opportunity to showcase the very best parts of GTA, which are the game world and the capabilities of the engine, while introducing the benefits of an online environment with years of added content. Yet for some reason these missions accomplish the exact opposite. They earn the player an insignificant reward and are generally not complex enough to warrant the use of the exceptional tools that you grind so hard for. Contact missions also do not occur in free mode, removing the possibility of interacting with other players in any meaningful way. Sure, you can run these missions with your friends, but why would you? And what incentive do your friends have to participate? The pay is negligible, and the missions are simple. This means that hopping on your oppressor and clearing the mission solo is much faster and more profitable than strategically employing a variety of vehicles with 2 to 3 friends. Picture this. You and a small group of players meet up at the beginning of the mission. You take a few minutes to strategize and call in a collection of vehicles with specific use cases, which you can then use to approach the mission location from various points of entry. One player could scout ahead with a sniper, remaining stealthy and identifying mission objectives, while another takes position to provide air support. 2 more players roll up in an armored vehicle, one driving and one on the gun. The armor and air support handle enemy reinforcements, while the scout neutralizes key objectives which don't need to be identical in each run. The mission is challenging, but because of the tactics expertly employed by the players, everyone gets extracted by air support and each player is rewarded fairly. The icing on the cake is that because of the wealth of weapons and vehicles available in online, you could run the same mission with the same people 10 different times and never have the same experience. What I've just described is an example of what could be accomplished simply by adjusting the incentive structure and mission design philosophy. It would transform contact missions from obsolete wastes of time to a viable alternative to heists, providing a comparable difficulty level, but with infinitely more freedom and accessibility. No new technology or gameplay mechanics are required. The only thing necessary to realize this scenario is a respect for the player base and a creative use of the tools which already exist within the game. Now imagine what could be done if Rockstar properly invested in the phenomenal game which they've created. If instead of adding disconnected and seemingly random pieces of content which gain nothing from each other, Each update improved upon and worked cohesively with those that came before. It sometimes feels as though the powers that be think players will stop buying shark cards if earning money in-game is too much fun. I say this because there are obvious ways to make the grind much more engaging and interesting. This strikes me as completely backwards thinking. If the game is more fun, more people will play. And if more people play, more shark cards will be purchased. Now, some players like myself will never buy a shark card under any circumstance, but there's a large portion of the player base who have simply never been given a reason to buy. Whales will always exist, and Rockstar is employing a counterproductive strategy to encourage everyone else to spend their real money. The most insulting of these strategies is allowing players to destroy other people's cargo for a $2,000 reward. Now, Rockstar says that this is to make the game more exciting by introducing a high-stakes, risk-reward element to these missions, but we all know that this is not their real reason for doing this. Players are required to spend a significant amount of their time and in-game money to accumulate cargo. Rockstar is betting that when this cargo gets destroyed with almost no effort by a griefer, the players trying to sell their cargo will throw their hands up in the air and buy a shark card in order to replace their lost income. We know this to be the case because if Rockstar's argument in favor of this mechanic was being made in good faith, they would accomplish the result that they say they want in a much more creative way. I suggest that the sale vehicles should be invincible, but should work in the same way as special cargo. That way, instead of having your hard work blown up with no way of recovering it, you could make use of one of your many upgraded war machines to outplay your opponent and recover your goods before they deliver it to their own warehouse or lockup. Your heart would be pounding from the moment you were intercepted until either you or the other player successfully delivered the goods. This method would introduce a fantastic reason to team up with others before beginning a sale mission, and would remove the concept of griefing from the game entirely. Plus, it would provide players with a much better reason to buy shark cards. If you're a new player starting out, shark cards would be a great way to enable yourself to compete with those trying to steal your cargo using much more advanced tools. How many times have you purchased an awesome new vehicle only to realize that you have no practical use for it? The two best ways to make money in this game are heists and sell missions, both of which force you to use specific vehicles. Even if you own a customized version of these vehicles, you can't use them. You have to use the specific version of that vehicle provided to you within the mission. In my opinion, the best use of money in GTA Online is making a purchase your own, by taking advantage of the extensive customization options the game has to offer. The problem is that after hitting the streets of Los Santos in your beautiful new creation, and maybe even robbing a liquor store or two just for fun, you come to the disappointing realization that there's not much more you can or should do with it. With this being the unfortunate reality that is GTA Online, why would you spend your real money to remove the largest and arguably most enjoyable portion of your gameplay loop? The first few minutes of a purchase can be fun, but it doesn't take long for the gratification to wear off. After that, you're back to scrolling on Warstock for your next purchase so you can do it all over again. Given enough cycles of this process, you come to understand that the anticipation-fueled grind is the stage of the game that is truly rewarding. Logically, this leads the majority of long-term players to become disenfranchised with the idea of engaging in microtransactions. And the craziest thing about it is, GTA Online is the only game I can think of that could legitimately make the exact opposite of reality. The publishers of GTA Online have the opportunity to present a fair value proposition to the player, with regard to exchanging real money for in-game currency. I believe a positive feedback loop is possible, where improvements upon player freedom and mission design result in a significantly higher number of shark cards being sold. As I said in the beginning, I love GTA Online. I want so badly for the game to love and care for itself as much as I and so many others do. It's entirely possible for this game to become everything we want it to be and so much more. The game is a vehicle, and the developers are driving it. It is one of the finest automobiles ever created, a true wonder of engineering. If the drivers would stop smashing the windshield, puncturing the tires, and laying boulders in its path, who knows what it could do. As impressive as it is that the vehicle is able to perform so well given these obstacles, one can't help but notice how much more it is capable of. I hope that someday the drivers will simply steer it with intention and handle the clutch with care. Thank you for listening to me ramble about the state of GTA Online. I would love to hear your opinions. Please leave a comment. and like the video if you enjoyed it. Also subscribe. Thanks.